Hey, this is Cameron. Welcome back to the Busy Gardener channel. Joined here with Tom Spellman of Dave Wilson Nursery, and we're going to look at things you need to think about before you plant a fruit tree. Let's get busy. Hey, Tom, thanks for joining me.
Cameron, nice to see you.
Yeah. Hey, so we're going to talk today about things before you go and plant that fruit tree, before you run out to the nursery and buy it and come home and throw it in the ground. There's some things you want to consider before you plant a fruit tree. And so, Tom, what are some of those things?
Well, absolutely, Cameron. And the biggest mistake people make is they do just that. They run down to the nursery, there's a beautiful looking tree, maybe it's got a couple of fruit on it, and they buy it and they take it home and they plant it. But what they haven't really considered is it adaptable to the climate that they're going to plant it in? Is it on the right rootstock? Is that rootstock adaptable to your geography, your soil type and your climate? And we're growing fruit trees on a number of different rootstocks. Apples, we use 7 different rootstocks. Wow. Plums, we use 6 different rootstocks. So those rootstocks are more for adaptability to soil types and climates than anything else.
So why is that important? If you get the wrong rootstock, what might happen to your tree?
Well, if I was to plant a plum in Southern California on a rootstock called St. Julian's main attribute is it can take temperatures down to about 20 below zero. Not important in Southern California.
At all, yeah.
So we're not going to get there. So what I want to know is what's the best rootstock for my climate and my soil. If I have a sandy soil, I'm going to choose a myrobalan, or if I have a heavy soil, I might look at citation or something like that that's adaptable to the soil. The rootstock is the heartbeat of the tree. If you have the wrong rootstock and the right variety, it's still going to be a non-productive tree. So you want to make sure that that root is adaptable to your climate and your soil. So the first thing you consider is, after cultivar, is rootstock. So that's one of the things you want to make sure you're doing. Understand your soil type. If you don't know what it is, you dig some test holes and you try and get a read on it. Dig a test hole, fill it up with water. How long did it take for that water to drain? If that water drains in less than a half an hour, you've got a good sandy, fast draining soil. If it takes 2 or 3 or 4 hours, moderate. If there's still water in that hole the next day, you've got poor drainage. So that's going to be considering planting style. If I want to put a mango in poor draining soil, or an avocado, I'm going to plant it high. I'm going to plant it so that maybe the root ball is only 50% below the soil surface, and then I'm going to mound up soil around it. That gives me an area where that soil is going to oxygenate and the water can get away from that root crown. So I'm not going to lose the tree in 5 or 6 months. It's going to thrive there because I've taken the right precautions in planting it high so that it does oxygenate and drain. So you're always considering those things. You're always considering the right varieties for the right harvest season. I want to plant fruit trees that are going to give me fruit 12 months out of the year, but I don't want 5 or 6 varieties that give me fruit at one time. I want one right after the other. So I'm always going to look at a calendar, a harvest date chart, and say, okay, I can put in this variety that's going to ripen in the middle of July, and this one that's going to ripen the 1st of August, and this one that's going to ripen mid to late August. So you chart it out. You do that homework up front. You don't want to make that mistake.
You guys have one. Dave Wilson Nursery has a fruit harvest chart.
Absolutely.
I've used that extensively to
it's
get
on
an
the
idea.
website.
I go, I've got 4 or 5 that are right around this month, and so I'm looking for something for me that was later because I didn't want them all bunched up like that.
Right.
Huge.
I don't even look at fruit for July and August anymore because I've got so many varieties. I want to know, what can I do earlier, what can I do later? So, and the wonderful thing about our climate here in Southern California is if we consider stone fruits, palm fruits, and subtropical fruits, we can plant a multitude of varieties that are going to give us fruit year round.
Yeah.
So, right after the persimmons and the apples and the figs are done in the fall, I can start to come in with citrus, and then I get citrus and I get avocados through the winter, and then I can get some loquats in April or May, and right at that time my early peaches and nectarines are coming
I'm even
in.
getting cherries at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by charting that out, by charting out the right varieties for the right time period, now you can have a successive ripening garden where you have fruit all the time, and again, a little bit of fruit all the time, not a lot of fruit at any one given time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want 6 varieties that all ripen at once, or even 3.
Because you'd be overwhelmed.
Absolutely. What are you going to do with all that fruit?
Sometimes people come out and they think they don't quite know how they're going to arrange it, or are they going to keep it short, or are they going to keep it tall?
Well,
What are some of those
and that's one of the
considerations?
nice things about the Dave Wilson website is we've done a series of videos on the website that show you examples of how you can do things. It shows an example of a 3-in-1 planting or a 4-in-1 planting. It shows examples of multiple grafted trees. It shows examples of a spell year and hedgerow techniques. So not all trees have to be a tree. Just because an apple is called an apple tree doesn't mean that I can't put it up against a chain link fence and grow it 12 inches wide and 10 feet out and 8 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make any tree fit any purpose that you want by sculpturing and pruning and structuring. And people are generally afraid of that, but it's funny because they do it with everything else. They'll take a wax leaf privet that wasn't meant to be a hedge, but they'll sculpt it into a hedge. So why can't you use citrus for that? Why can't I grow an apple as an espalier like I would do with a climbing rose? You can. You just have to, open up your mind a little bit. And when somebody comes and tells you, oh, you can't do that with an apple tree, or you can't do that with a lemon tree, you just tell them, well, yeah, actually I can, and go home and get out of my way. 'Cause, everybody has their ideas on what you should do or can do or shouldn't do with a tree, and that doesn't mean that they're right and you're wrong.
I'm amazed at how resilient trees are
Absolutely.
to pruning styles and training styles. Something you talked about when we were first talking about getting together, and that is, an orchard is a very personal thing, and so what's going to be the right style for me isn't going to necessarily be the right style for you.
No.
That where you want to begin with the end in mind. You want to get an idea. It's almost like getting a pet, in the sense that you want to think you can't just plant it and just forget about it. There's some care things you need to consider as well before you go and get.
Absolutely. There's maintenance issues. You're going to have to take into consideration maintenance all the time. But you're absolutely right. Planning with the end in mind. You want to plan so that you have set this up from the beginning. You don't want to go in and make these mistakes. If I plant trees too far apart, I can put one in the middle. That's fine. I can interplant. I can do that. But you want to chart it out on paper. You want to have your soil test done. You want to know what type of soil you're dealing with. You want to know what the pH of your water is.
In different parts of your yard too.
In different parts of your yard, not just one test. Test in all the areas you're going to plant, so that maybe you've got better drainage over there than you do over here. So
that's been true here. We've seen that here.
I can plant the avocado over there where the drainage is good. I can put the plum over here on Citation where the drainage is bad. So once you understand everything about your landscape, once you have an understanding of your microclimate, then you have the ability to make the right decision and put the right variety in the right place. But until you understand it, you're just shooting crap. You might get lucky, you might not get lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And people lose trees all the time because they put the right tree in the wrong place, and they never want to take into consideration that maybe they made a mistake. They think the nurseryman sold them a bad tree.
That's right. Michelle was just down at Amy's farm today, helping out over there, and was talking with Randy. And something, because we have a small vegetable garden that she's just kind of starting to get into, and he made the point that it's good and fine to totally start small, and just kind of start learning a little bit before you go and plant 60 trees. I mean, I planted 9 trees in a small space to begin with 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I learned lessons during that time.
Absolutely.
And so rather than maybe taking on an entire orchard like this, planting 60 trees in 5,500 square feet or whatever this is, even knowing what I knew from that one, I would have still done things differently this time. So maybe there's something to be said about maybe starting small and get kind of get your legs under you a little bit too, and
Oh,
see
yeah,
what some of the
yeah.
considerations are.
And I know Randy. He's a very good friend of mine. Amy's Farm is a wonderful establishment. They grow lots of great produce down there, all organic and all really good quality. And I learned years and years ago from a good friend of mine, Rosalind Creasy. And she had the philosophy of square inch gardening, not square foot, but square inch. So she would have small raised beds and make use of every square inch in those raised beds. And she could harvest out of a 4x10 raised bed something to eat every day out of the year.
Wow.
So make good use of it. Make sure that you're putting in what you like, what you're going to use, and switch things up, change things up. Vegetables are going to change all the time. When the squash plant gets too big, rip it out and put something else in there. So it doesn't mean that you can't switch it up all the time, maybe even sooner than a commercial farmer would. So there's lots of great methodology out there to use, but planning ahead is what's going to make you successful.
Something that has been so instrumental for me in terms of planting this bigger orchard, and even what got me frankly started on the whole thing, Tom, was this is interesting for you viewers. 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago, I don't know what the deal was. We were waiting for Evan to be born, our little guy, who's now 7 also. And I was going through and I saw this video, hey, plant fruit trees, in a small space, backyard orchard culture. And I thought, what is this thing? And you guys had just planted your test orchard up at the main nursery, Dave Wilson Nursery.
Yeah.
And so I didn't entirely do my homework, but I did a bit because I read up on it. I watched the other videos you guys had. I went out, I started, and I got the recommended things for successive ripening. I planted them, and it was so helpful to be able to look at your guys' video catalog as well. Being able to do some research, and even more resources are available. You viewers of this channel have seen this orchard develop. Dave Wilson Nursery's website is an absolute treasure trove. Tom, you're there walking through, showing so many different varieties, ways to plant and prune, and it really informed the way that I've done this. So it's kind of neat, a little bit of a full circle that you got me indirectly started on this, and here we are talking about this today.
I don't know whether to apologize or send you a bill.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see how the trees end up.
Well, the Dave Wilson website has been really a fun project for me to work on. We've done so much over the years. There's well over 100 videos on there now. And one of the things that I get a lot when we'll put out a video and people will comment, oh yeah, well you've got unlimited resources and you've got all these people that can come in and do all this work for you. That's not true. That project, when we put it in, basically the management of the company looked at me and said, it's your project. Mm-hmm. You manage it. Don't be asking us for labor. So that project is managed. I spend really a few hours a month in that project, along with 3 or 4 other guys that work with me on it, and that's all the help that it gets. So we're showing our successes, but we also show our failures. The last video that we did, we showed a peach tree that wasn't properly thinned, with a branch that was laid over on the ground and breaking. And I just want people to understand that it's not a professionally managed orchard. It's more managed on a backyard scale. We put a little bit of time into it and we get a lot of reward out of it. But there's definitely things that succeed and definitely things that fail in that project, and I'm going to show you the whole thing.
I think that's really helpful because somebody like me who's busy, I've got a day job, this is just kind of my relaxation, my hobby, and it's super rewarding, and yet it's helpful to know that sometimes things do go wrong. And also that it doesn't take tons and tons to make it a successful planting either. I think that's also helpful to see.
That's the nice thing. And if we've done anything over the past 10 or 12 years with our videos, we've tried to make people feel comfortable that they can accomplish this at home. It's not rocket science. You don't have to PhD to enjoy your landscape and grow some fruit trees. Anybody can do it, whether you have 1 tree or 3 trees or 60 trees. It's something that you can do it as long as you're willing to accept the responsibility and apply the management.
Yeah, well, that's totally been true for me. Applying the principles in those videos is what I've applied in this orchard almost uniformly, and this is proof that it's worked.
I think it's great. I love this project.
This is awesome. Hey, thanks you guys for tuning in. Also, thanks Tom so much for coming and sharing your wisdom and insight with us. You know, there's things to consider before you run out and grab a fruit tree. It's worth putting in a little bit of time at the outset so that you get the results that you want. You can avoid some of the heartache that inevitably comes with a tree that isn't doing what it was never really meant to do in some cases, if you put in just a little bit of time at the outset. And I think you're going to be really happy with how it turns out. So thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe right now if you hadn't. If you're not subscribed, this is the time to do it. You've watched this far. Don't give up. And ring the notification bell. You'll know when other videos are coming up. So hey, whether you've got one tree in your orchard or 500, until next time, stay busy.